When you started as a manufacturing engineer, recollecting your experiences from that time, what do you think younger professionals should focus on?
Yeah, I think it's a journey, right? It's a journey of discovery and being able to know what you like, what your passions are, what your natural abilities and talents are. When I was back in high school, I was very technical in nature. And so math, science, that's typically where I gravitated to. So it was a very natural inclination for me to study engineering. I loved it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ambition Circuit. Today, I'm with my guest, Mr. Chabu Kashito. And first of all, I would like to thank you so much for your time. It means a lot for you to take the time for me and for my audience, all of my viewers. And with that being said, I would like to hand it over to you, Mr. Kashito, to give us a brief synopsis or overview of yourself and your history.
Awesome. Chabu Kashito, it's a pleasure. I appreciate the time here to talk to you and your audience. I want to start off by just commending you with the work you're doing to inspire others and your peers, and I'm hoping that our conversation here can advance to exactly what you're doing. So, I am of Zambian descent. I came to the United States uh, when I was 19 years old, and I've been here for a little bit over 20 years. I studied electrical engineering and physics in college. I started out my career in the med device industry as an engineer. I did various different roles for a company called Stryker, a med device company. I've been in med device my entire career. I later pivoted into strategic sourcing and procurement, which is what I currently do. I work for a company called CONMED right now, and in my role right now, I'm director of strategic sourcing, and I manage myself and the team our direct material spend and our relationships with our suppliers. So excited to talk about my career, how I got to be where I am, my journey here, and hopefully this could be impactful to others as well.
Of course. And you know what? It sounds like there is a lot to unpack here. So I do think it will be impactful. First off, I think, thank you for your history. We got to know a lot about you. And I think it's really cool knowing that you come from Zambian descent because, it takes a lot to come to a new country and to set yourself up. And on top of that, being in a director and executive position is very impressive. So definitely congrats to you on that.
Thank you.
So, that leads into my first question. When you started as a manufacturing engineer, recollecting your experiences from that time, what do you think younger professionals should focus on if they were to choose that career path, or even just in any role they choose?
Yeah, I think you'll probably hear this theme as we conversate here today. It's a journey, right? It's a journey of discovery and being able to know what you like, what your passions are, what your natural abilities and talents are. For me, even younger in high school, back in Zambia, when I was back in high school, I was very technical in nature, and so math, science, that's typically where I gravitated to. So it was a very natural inclination for me to study engineering. I loved it. Actually, through my electrical engineering time in college, I fell in love with physics. So it had absolutely
Wow.
nothing to do with my career as I graduated, but I loved it so much that I decided to get a minor in it as I went through. So again, you hear this theme from me as we talk here that it's discovery. So that's what I would say.
Nice discovery. And I love it that you talked about, falling in love with something and sticking with it because it's not only the discovery, but it's the willingness to accept what you discover and know that, you can change your path. Maybe you can minor in physics, even going from a science or technology major. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
So moving on to my next question, being an engineer, you had to solve complex problems just in the nature of the job. And so what problem solving skills do you think are really important for, new age engineers or younger Gen Z engineers?
Yeah, problem solving. I'll take it a step further. Is not only in the engineering field, right? I think every career, the ability to problem solve transcends across multiple career paths, right?
Yes.
Really, the ability uh, to know what questions to ask, who to ask those questions to, read between the lines and the answers you're getting. just that idea of being able to have an ability to critically think. Problem solving has to be a superpower, right? That's something that you
Yeah.
carry with yourself along your career path. So it's something that I would urge, Gen Zers and others to really develop. And it's a skill set that doesn't end, right? It's a skill set that you don't end in being able to sharpen your tool set on asking the right questions, and knowing exactly how to critically think and apply yourself in different ways through your career.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So, moving on, going into, a higher position of engineering is staff manufacturing engineering. That kind of a role means more responsibility. So, what helped you grow into your responsibility, or like, what developed those skills for you?
Yeah, so again, that road of discovery led me there. I started out as a manufacturing engineer. A lot of that work has a lot of what we call firefighting, so day-to-day chores. Your days are very unpredictable. You're reacting a lot to things that happen to you in your space of work. I liked that at the onset. It taught me a lot. I learned pretty quickly about very different various aspects of the space that I was working in. But by interacting with others and stretching myself and being inquisitive, right, I was able to pinpoint other engineers that were in other spaces adjacent to myself, right? I
Yeah.
was able to identify myself in those roles. I asked myself, and sometimes I shadowed other engineers and was able to understand that I needed something different, right? So for me, that staff engineering role had more proactive work. I found that I was a little bit more fulfilled in that type of work, being able to proactively work on projects that took 6 months to a year, sometimes longer, to be able to prevent tomorrow's problems. So I found that space fit more with my personality. And so again, being able to be open-minded, an ability to stretch myself, it was an unknown. Um, I think you probably heard folks say, when you stretch yourself a rubber band, somewhat like a rubber band, that's when you really grow. So I feel like that's another huge superpower that I would encourage, others and myself as well as I continue to grow within my career, to just constantly look at other opportunities to be able to learn, grow, and have experiences. You either discover what you like or discover what you don't like, right? But either
Yeah.
way, you'll be growing.
You're going. Nice. I like that. And, thank you for that. I think that is beautiful, beautiful advice. You need to stretch yourself like a rubber band, like in a piece of elastic to
Yep.
truly grow.
Yep.
So, moving on to my next question, you transitioned from engineering into sourcing. So, what were the guiding moments in your career shift that helped you master the change?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think it wasn't one thing or one instance where I woke up and said, "Oh my gosh, I need to be this is a career that was meant to me." I am
Yeah.
confident that strategic sourcing is what I love. I'm passionate about it. Clearly, I've been in procurement and strategic sourcing for a little bit over 10 years now. It started out with, again, stretching myself, right? I was part of stretch assignments where I was interacting with our supply base. I found that the problems within sourcing were very unique. But in my case, I wanted to be where the needle was being moved the most, and I found that solving problems within our supply chain really enabled our business the most, and so that excited me, right? Whether it
Yeah.
was a problem to figure out how to be more economical with our costs, or figure out how to be more efficient with how parts are manufactured at a supplier. Just the problems were never ending, and I'm a problem solver and I loved it. It was never a dull day. So I started out with exercising my engineering skill set to problem solve technical problems, and then from then on I realized I needed to understand the commercial aspects of it, right? So I actually went back and got my MBA. I got very inquisitive about business, and as I went on, I discovered I needed a program management skill set to be able to efficiently manage programs as well. So I got my PMP certification along the way, and I managed some projects and some programs as well. So I found that over time, I developed a tool set, and that's another thing that we can talk about, of just skill sets that just complemented each other well, and that just naturally led into a role of strategic sourcing. In strategic sourcing, you get to be a technical person one day. You get to be working on a different category or a different commodity one day, and another one the other day. The opportunity to learn and stretch yourself is just never ending. There's never a down day, and there's a lot of people that type of environment is really appealing. Certainly for me, it is, and so that's what kind of led into me position myself into that career path eventually. So.
Nice, thank you. And your answer tells me that it's something you truly are passionate about because you
Absolutely.
had, a lot of experience to speak from. So I love that for you.
Yeah.
So, you talked about developing this complementary skill set, skills, that complement each other, that go hand in glove with each other. How does one develop a skill set like that, to diverse yourself in a way that you can complement what you're good at and even necessarily use what you're bad at?
Yeah, being inquisitive, to be honest. Being inquisitive, being flexible. And again, I'm going to go back to that, problem solving needs to be a superpower. I feel like you
Mhm.
need to wake up every morning and figure out how to sharpen your superpower, right? If you're a superhero and you have a superpower, you want to be the best at whatever it is that you're doing. And so for me, what that means is waking up and figuring out if I have a unique problem today, which in supply chain, in procurement, and sourcing, there's never a Dow day. So there's always going to be a unique problem. Is
Yeah.
figuring out what do I not know today, and if this problem, reveals itself tomorrow, what skill set should I be able to have to be the best at being able to solve that problem. Second thing that I'll bring up is watching other people that are really good at what they do, right? I'll put them into two different buckets. There are skill sets that are tangible and skill sets that are intangible, right?
Yeah.
Tangible skill sets, the soft skills, communication, being able to problem solve or ask the right questions, knowing when to ask, when to make a statement. I mean, those things come naturally to others. They don't come naturally to other people. And so paying attention to people that are really good at that and soliciting them as mentors, for instance. I was very big on that. I continue to be. I've had a lot of people that have been very pivotal to the success within my career, and engaging with them and asking them, how did you get to have that skill set? How is it that you're good at what you're doing? And then seeing if you can employ some of those tactics into your career growth as well.
Nice. Thank you. And, I love that you talked about, I don't know how to phrase it, but I would say best as predicting your problems and getting the skills for that. That's a new advice. I've always heard of being inquisitive and learning and, trying and failing and learning again, but I've never heard of predicting your problems. So I love that. Thank you for that. In your time as a sourcing manager, I'm sure building relationships, especially with suppliers, was key. What do you think Gen Z has to learn about business relationships, professional relationships, how to build them and how to maintain them?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most important things to do, especially in this field. Relationships are assets, they're really big assets, and you get to rely on them. I would think of them as currency, right? But it's important, you need to be able to build them before you need them, right? And the one key thing that I would say as well is that you do not need to treat people, you need to treat people as long term partners and not
Mhm.
transactional, right? So you have to have a genuine nature to being able to be inquisitive, to build those relationships. You never know when you're going to need them. I remember reading a book of one of my mentors earlier in my career, when this individual was interviewing for an internship at a company, and something that he had built that was not, a skill set that he had learned and a relationship that he had fostered earlier in his career just came in handy and really helped him to be able to get that internship because he was able to strike a relational conversation with the individual at the time. And so just investing in relationships, investing in knowledge, I think that becomes very, very pivotal because you never know when you'll be able to need that relationship and rely on it. Certainly, that is very true within strategic sourcing and procurement as well.
Nice. So that need, or not even that need, but that necessity of being wanted and, fulfilling that for the supplier, the other end of the relationship, and making sure that you're treating them, as an individual, not as a transaction.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%.
Nice. Well said. Thank you. So at CONMED, you work in sourcing excellence, if I'm correct, right? So what does excellence actually look like day to day? Beyond the daily firefighting, the day-to-day troubles, what does the excellence really mean? And how can young professionals, Gen Z professionals, aim for it?
Yeah, I love that. I love that question. What it means for me is, I would say, consistency and intentionality, right? Our generation today, we get information very fast. There is a lot of instant gratification in what we need. I feel like we are slowly losing the passion to enjoy the process, right?
Yeah,
But for me, excellence means consistency and intentionality. If you have a strategy, if you have a plan, it's you're not going to wake up the next day and be exactly where you need to be, right? You need to be able to enjoy every single step as you're engaging in it to be able to get to your goal, right? So what does that mean? Involving every single day, whatever it is that you need to check off your box of your to-do list, waking up with intention to say, today this is what I'm going to be doing, planning it ahead of time, taking the steps to be able to improve and make small steps towards your goal one day at a time. That becomes very, very important over a longer period of time. It builds into habits. It builds into you having the you know the backbone to be able to ensure that you get to your eventual goal as well.
definitely. Consistency is key. Yep. Thank you. So, I'm sure throughout your career, you've had to make very many tough decisions, very many tough calls throughout your various roles. What is your advice for making those tough calls and those tough decisions? Do you have a certain kind of thinking process or a due diligence that you do beforehand?
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the more core and important things about leadership, right? Is people are looking to you for direction. People are looking to you for decision making for sure. I would say that making tough calls is not always about being right every single time,
Mhm.
but it's about how you learn from a decision that you make, so that you're making more right decisions than you are making wrong decisions.
Wrong
Uh,
decisions.
but
Yeah.
but decision making and leadership is about being clear, right? It's about being clear. It's about being fair. It's being accountable. Um, Again, we started the conversation talking about learning, talking about being inquisitive. So a lot of times, myself in the position that I am, I derive a lot from my experience. I derive a lot in being able to see patterns in things. And if I get into a conversation, I can see, if A plus B plus C in a situation, I can predict what D is going to be, right?
What is going to be?
And
Yeah.
so I will rely on that experience. And you don't always have to have all the information presented to you in a certain way to be able to be confident in a decision. But at some point, you need to be clear. You need to be able to be fair and accountable and articulate exactly why you're making the decision that you're making. And sometimes you might be wrong. So you need to be accountable at that point, and pivot where necessary. But you need to be aware that folks are looking to you to be that clear and concise decision maker in the room, and to guide folks towards towards a solid outcome. So having that responsibility on your back becomes very, very important as well.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. And, segueing into my final question for you, and my favorite to ask all my guests is, if someone from Gen Z wanted to be the next Mr. Chabu Kashito, what advice or what path would you ask them to take?
This is how I would answer it. I would ask them to take their path. I think not all paths are exactly the same. I started out, as an electrical engineer. I started out as a manufacturing engineer, uh, in operations, and I just met the right people at the right time to be able to get to where I am. If you were in the same position and you were taking a path to be, the director of strategic sourcing at an organization, your path might look very different from mine. But what I would say as advice is, keep your eyes open, your ears open as well, to be able to be inquisitive. Learn about yourself. What makes me tick? What gets me excited? What skill sets and what environments do I, find myself the most elated, right? Pay attention to others. Sometimes, for me, it happened that I would see others and I would see myself in them, and I would say, man, I would love to be like that individual. I'd like to be like that other individual. And I was inquisitive, and then I asked questions. What does your job entail? What was your path to get there? And you can try it. Sometimes you find out what you like. Sometimes you find out what you do not like. But just being comfortable in trying certain things. And the
So
last thing that I would
yeah.
say is also building that toolbox, right? It's okay to be in the same position for a little bit and make a lateral move and try something else and make another lateral move before moving up as well. I think I heard the podcast with Nick, and he mentioned something to that effect. I love that as
Yes.
well.
Lateral versus vertical movements.
Exactly.
Yes.
I believe in that entirely because you're building a toolbox that will allow you then to make a very meaningful forward jump as well. So your path might not be the same as mine. And so I would encourage folks to not say, this is the only pathway to success or getting to where I want to be. Just enjoy your path created by yourself, be inquisitive, and learn from others as well.
Awesome. And you know what? That's wonderful advice. I've heard the phrase, and I even used it earlier in this episode, that consistency is key. But I think from you, Mr. Kashito, the key would be saying inquisitivity. Sorry, being inquisitive is the key.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Inquisitivity is the key. There we go. And well, with that being said, that would conclude another episode of the Ambition Circuit. Unless, of course, Mr. Kashito, you have any questions for me.
No, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you continue to do what you're doing, and um, good luck.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us your time. I truly did enjoy our conversation and I did learn a lot. So thank you for it all.
Same here. Thank you.